My name is Michael, and for years, I thought my marriage to Jennifer was the embodiment of suburban bliss. We had the house, the yard, the golden retriever named Max. It was like we were living in a stock photo, all smiles, barbecue weekends, and Christmas cards. Or so I thought. The cracks started to show one random Tuesday evening. I was lounging on the couch, half watching a game, when Jennifer's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second thought. But this time curiosity got the better of me. The notification was from someone saved as yoga guru. Now, Jennifer's been into yoga for years, but this didn't sound like a downward dog kind of conversation. The message read, "Last night was magical. You're my gingerbread queen. Can't wait to see you again." I blinked. Gingerbread queen? Magical? Since when did yoga instructors get this personal? "Hey, babe," I called out casually, keeping my voice steady. Jennifer popped her head out of the bathroom, her hair wrapped in a towel. "Your guru seems enthusiastic about your progress." Her eyes darted to her phone, and for a split second, I caught a flicker of panic before she chuckled nervously. "Oh, you know him. Always over the top. He probably means my form was great in class." "Aha," I said, raising an eyebrow. "Your form. Michael, don't be ridiculous." She grabbed her phone and swiped the message away faster than a teenager caught texting during class. That should have been it, just a weird moment I'd laugh about later. But something inside me clicked. The way she clutched her phone. The faint blush creeping up her cheeks. Jennifer was a terrible liar. Over the next few days, I started noticing more. She was suddenly doing yoga 3 nights a week, coming home late with excuses like, class ran over or we grabbed a smoothie after. Her phone, once left out in the open like a forgotten coffee mug, was now glued to her hand. Then there were the girls' nights. Oh, the infamous girls' nights. "Don't wait up for me," she'd say, slipping into a little black dress that screamed date night more than wine with the girls. "Sure thing," I'd reply with a smile, even as my stomach twisted. The final straw came one Saturday afternoon. Jennifer was out shopping, and I decided to do a little digging. Nothing crazy, just checking her laptop for clues, like every sane husband would do when he finds a message about gingerbread queens. There it was, a folder innocuously titled Yoga Sessions. Inside? Photos. Photos of Jennifer and a guy who was definitely not demonstrating sun salutations. He was shirtless, chiseled, and wearing my damn bathrobe. "Oh, you son of a," I muttered, clicking through the images. There they were, laughing in our living room, toasting wine glasses in my favorite spot on the couch. But the kicker? A selfie of him flexing with the caption, "Your guru is always here to guide you." Jennifer came home later that evening, her arms full of shopping bags. "Hey, honey. Look at these new candles I found," she chirped, as if she hadn't just spent the day with her guru. "Smells great," I said, forcing a smile. "Very calming. Just like yoga, huh?" She froze for a moment, her eyes searching mine. But I just kissed her on the cheek and walked away, leaving her to unpack her secrets. That night, as I lay in bed beside her, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. If she wanted to play games, I'd let her. But this time, I'd be the one making the rules. And so, the gingerbread queen's reign began to crumble. Little did she know, her guru was about to be outmaneuvered by a king. The thing about betrayal is that it sharpens your focus. Suddenly, every little detail starts to fall into place, like pieces of a puzzle you didn't even realize you were assembling. Over the next few weeks, I started keeping tabs on Jennifer with the precision of a CIA operative. "Yoga again tonight?" I'd ask casually over breakfast. She'd nod, sipping her coffee, her eyes darting to her phone. "Yeah, and after, the girls and I might grab dinner." "The girls, huh?" "Tell Sarah I said hi." Her smile twitched. Sarah was her go-to alibi, the friend I hadn't seen in months. It wasn't hard to gather evidence. Jennifer's carelessness was almost insulting. Her laptop was a treasure trove of receipts from swanky restaurants I'd never heard of, all dated conveniently during her supposed yoga sessions. Her phone, though guarded, occasionally buzzed with messages from Yoga Guru. And her credit card statements? Let's just say I wasn't footing the bill for her new lingerie to wear during Downward Dog. But the piece de resistance came one evening when I worked late and set up a discreet little recording device in the living room. Nothing fancy, just a tiny camera tucked behind a stack of books on the shelf. The next day, while Jennifer was out grabbing coffee, I reviewed the footage. And there it was, Guru Boy himself, lounging on my couch like he owned the place. He even had the audacity to pour himself a drink from my whiskey collection. "Oh, you're bold," I muttered, watching him raise the glass in a mock toast to the empty room. Then Jennifer walked in. They laughed, they flirted, and then, well, let's just say the yoga got a little too advanced for my liking. By this point, I wasn't angry anymore. No, anger had given way to something far more productive, amusement. Jennifer thought she was so clever, so sneaky, but in reality, she was like a kid trying to steal cookies while covered in crumbs. That night, I started planning. Step 1, secure a new place to live. It didn't take long to find a cozy apartment in the city. Something just for me. Quiet, modern, and most importantly, completely Jennifer-free. Step 2, gather evidence. I organized everything into a neat little package. Screenshots of texts, photos from her laptop, footage of her yoga sessions, and even receipts from her clandestine dinners. I printed them out, labeled them by category, and placed them in folders. Step 3, prepare the gifts. I made multiple copies of the evidence, one for Jennifer, one for her beloved Guru Boy, and a few for her and my close relatives. Nothing says happy holidays like a scandalous exposé, right? Step 4, execute the plan. Timing was everything. Christmas was Jennifer's favorite holiday. She loved decorating, hosting, and basking in the warm glow of family admiration. This year, I'd make sure she got all the attention she deserved. The final weeks leading up to Christmas were almost fun. I played the part of the oblivious husband perfectly, smiling through holiday shopping trips and even pretending to enjoy decorating the tree. Jennifer, meanwhile, was so wrapped up in her affair that she didn't notice me gradually moving my things out of the house. "Where's your guitar?" she asked one evening, noticing the empty stand in the corner. "Oh, I lent it to Dave," I lied easily. She shrugged and went back to texting, her phone angled just enough to keep me from seeing the screen. By Christmas Eve, the stage was set. I had my new apartment ready, my belongings safely relocated, and my carefully curated gift packages wrapped and labeled. All that was left was to wait for the curtain to rise on Jennifer's grand finale. That night, as we sat by the fire, she leaned against me, smiling as if everything was perfect. "I can't wait for tomorrow," she said softly. "Me neither," I replied, suppressing a grin. "It's going to be unforgettable." Little did she know, her reign as the gingerbread queen was about to come to a spectacular end. Christmas morning dawned crisp and clear. Jennifer, as usual, was in her element. The house was a winter wonderland of garlands, twinkling lights, and the faint scent of cinnamon candles. She hummed a holiday tune as she set the table for brunch, no doubt imagining the compliments she'd get for her hosting skills. "Everything looks amazing, doesn't it, honey?" she asked, flashing me her best perfect wife smile. "Absolutely stunning," I replied, and for once, I wasn't lying. The scene was perfect, exactly how I wanted it for the climax of my little drama. By noon, Jennifer's family began arriving, followed shortly by mine. Her parents, doting and oblivious, brought a bottle of wine. My brother, who had caught wind of my plan, showed up with a grin that screamed, "This is going to be good." "Michael, how's life treating you?" Jennifer's dad asked, clapping me on the shoulder. "Oh, can't complain," I said, forcing a smile. "But let's just say today will be full of surprises." Jennifer shot me a curious glance but didn't press. She was too busy fluttering around the room, playing hostess. By early afternoon, the moment had come. The gifts were unwrapped, the food was devoured, and everyone was settling in for coffee and pie. I cleared my throat, standing up in front of the fireplace. Before we wrap up the day, I have a little something extra for everyone, I announced. Jennifer looked at me with mild confusion. What are you talking about, honey? Oh, just a few special gifts I prepared, I said, smiling innocently. I reached under the tree and pulled out a stack of neatly wrapped folders, each labeled with a name. Jennifer, this one's for you, I said, handing her the first package. And, of course, one for you, Mom and Dad. I distributed the rest to her parents, my brother, and finally, chef's kiss, a courier arrived at Guru Boy's place at that very moment. Jennifer's expression shifted from confusion to unease. Michael, what is this? Oh, just a little something I've been working on for the past few months, I replied, sitting back down and sipping my coffee. Go ahead. Open it. The room went silent as Jennifer tore open the package. Her face went pale as she flipped through the contents, photos, screenshots, texts, and, my personal favorite, a USB drive with the video footage. This isn't funny, she stammered, her voice shaking. Oh, it's not meant to be, I said, my tone as sweet as the pie on her plate. Consider it a Christmas card. You know, to share with the people you love most. Her mother gasped, clutching her pearls as she glanced at a particularly incriminating photo. Her father muttered something about needing fresh air. Michael, how could you? Jennifer started, but I cut her off. How could I? Jennifer, darling, I'm not the one sneaking around with my yoga instructor and desecrating my couch in the process. I turned to the room. And by the way, folks, in case anyone's wondering, that bathrobe she's wearing in the photo? It's mine. Her lover's reaction came shortly after. My phone buzzed with a text. You're insane. I smirked and typed back, you're welcome. Jennifer stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. The rest of the family sat in stunned silence, save for my brother, who was doing a poor job of suppressing laughter. Well, I said, standing up and grabbing my coat, Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm off to start my new life. Enjoy the pie. With that, I walked out, leaving behind a room full of shocked faces and a holiday they would never forget. By the time I got to my new apartment, the texts were rolling in. Jennifer's parents were appalled, her friends were concerned, and my brother was officially naming me his personal hero. As for Jennifer, she called me 43 times that day. I didn't answer. Instead, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, put on some jazz, and raised a toast to myself. To Christmas miracles, I murmured. And for the first time in months, I truly felt at peace. The first few days after Christmas were lively, to say the least. My phone was a hotbed of activity, buzzing with calls, texts, and voicemails from Jennifer, her family, and even a few mutual friends. I ignored most of them, choosing instead to focus on unpacking in my new apartment and reveling in the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Jennifer, however, was persistent. Voicemail number 7. Michael, how dare you humiliate me like that in front of everyone? Do you even understand what you've done? Voicemail number 12. I was going to explain everything eventually. You didn't have to go nuclear. Voicemail number 25. Michael, please call me. I made a mistake, okay? We can fix this. I still love you. By the time I got to voicemail number 32, her tone had shifted from anger to desperation, and honestly, it was starting to get entertaining. Meanwhile, the family group chats were pure chaos. Jennifer's mother sent a lengthy message about how this isn't how civilized people resolve conflicts, followed by her father chiming in with a blunt, she had it coming. My mom, ever the diplomat, simply replied with, let's all take a breath and remember it's the holidays. My brother, of course, couldn't resist stirring the pot. Hey Jen, if yoga doesn't work out, maybe you can join a circus. Seems like you're already good at juggling. That one earned him a passive-aggressive response from Jennifer's sister about family loyalty, which only fueled his sarcasm further. As for her lover, Guru Boy, oh, he wasn't taking things well either. He sent me a single, scathing text. "You've ruined her life." I replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Later, I heard through the grapevine that his yoga business had taken a hit after the story leaked among their social circle. Apparently, people weren't keen on attending classes led by a guy who moonlit as a homewrecker. Jennifer finally managed to track me down on day 4. She showed up outside my new apartment, looking disheveled and teary-eyed, a far cry from the poised, confident woman I'd known. "Michael," she pleaded, "can we talk?" I considered shutting the door in her face but decided to hear her out. She deserved at least that much after the performance I'd orchestrated. "I know what I did was wrong," she began, wringing her hands. "I was stupid and selfish, and I let things get out of control. But can't we just start over? Please?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Start over? Jen, you didn't just make a mistake. You made a lifestyle choice. And frankly, I'm not interested in being part of it anymore." "But we've built a life together," she cried. "Correction," I said, my voice steady. "I built a life. You tore it down and redecorated with lies and betrayal." She opened her mouth to argue but seemed to realize there was nothing she could say to undo the damage. "Goodbye, Jennifer," I said, stepping back and closing the door. The silence that followed was deafening, but it was the kind of silence I could get used to. For the first time in months, I felt like I was truly in control of my life. Jennifer eventually stopped calling. Word spread about our explosive Christmas, and while it wasn't the kind of story you'd find in a Hallmark movie, it certainly made for an entertaining cautionary tale. As for me, I settled into my new apartment, joined a gym, ironic, I know, and even started dating again. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and that was more than enough. Sometimes, the best gift you can give yourself is freedom. And boy, did I unwrap mine in style. By the time January rolled around, the dust had mostly settled. Jennifer's frantic calls and texts became less frequent until they eventually stopped altogether. I'd heard through mutual friends that she was trying to rebuild her life. Word on the street was that Guru Boy wasn't quite as devoted to their relationship as she had hoped. Who could have guessed that a man who seduced another guy's wife might not be the epitome of reliability? About 3 weeks after the Christmas bombshell, I ran into Sarah, Jennifer's supposed girls' night alibi, at a coffee shop. Sarah, never one to hold back, was grinning ear to ear. "Michael, I have to say, your Christmas stunt? Absolute legend," she said, sliding into the seat across from me uninvited. "Well, I figured it was time for a plot twist," I replied with a smirk. Sarah leaned in, lowering her voice. "Did you hear about the fallout? Jennifer's parents are mortified. And Guru Boy? Turns out he's been guiding more than just your wife." "What do you mean?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, he had a whole roster of clients turned lovers. Jennifer was just one of many." I couldn't help but laugh. "So, she cheated on me with a guy who cheats professionally." "Perfect." "Perfectly ironic," Sarah added, clinking her coffee cup against mine. Despite the chaos Jennifer had caused, I didn't hate her. If anything, I felt a strange sense of pity. She'd gambled everything, our marriage, her reputation, and lost spectacularly. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My new apartment was finally starting to feel like home. I'd picked up a few hobbies, including boxing, which was surprisingly therapeutic. Nothing says stress relief like punching a heavy bag while imagining your ex's guru wearing your bathrobe. One night, my brother convinced me to join a dating app. "You need to get back out there," he said, holding up his phone with a grin. "Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Another yoga guru?" I groaned but eventually caved. To my surprise, the app wasn't the soul-sucking hellscape I'd imagined. I met a few interesting women, had some good conversations, and even went on a couple of dates. One of them, Emma, stood out. She was witty, sharp, and, most importantly, had zero interest in yoga. On our third date, I told her about the Christmas debacle. "So, you sent evidence of your wife's affair to her parents and your entire family?" she asked, trying to suppress a laugh. "Guilty," I admitted. She leaned back, smiling. "That's either the most vindictive or the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. I like it." Just when I thought Jennifer was out of my life for good, she made one final attempt to reach me. A letter arrived in my mailbox, handwritten on expensive stationery. "Michael, I've had time to reflect on everything. I know I hurt you deeply, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I'll always love you in my own way. From Jennifer." I stared at the letter for a moment, then folded it neatly and tucked it away in a drawer. I didn't need her love, her apologies, or her regret. I had already moved on. Life after Jennifer wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I'd learned a lot about myself in the aftermath of her betrayal, what I wanted, what I wouldn't tolerate, and how much strength I had when pushed to my limits. One evening, as I sat on my balcony with a whiskey in hand, I couldn't help but smile. The city lights twinkled in the distance, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. "Here's to new beginnings," I muttered, raising my glass to no one in particular. Jennifer may have thought she was the queen of the board, but in the end, it was me who made the final move. And it was checkmate. Life moved on, as it always does. By the time spring rolled around, the Christmas drama was nothing more than an amusing anecdote I'd occasionally share with close friends. It had become a story not of heartbreak but of empowerment, a reminder that even when life throws you a curveball, you can still hit it out of the park. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard bits and pieces about Jennifer's post-apocalypse existence. Guru Boy had ghosted her shortly after the holidays, leaving her with nothing but a pile of broken trust and awkward family dinners. Her parents, once staunch defenders of her every decision, had become cold and distant, embarrassed by the public fallout. Meanwhile, her social circle had dwindled to a handful of die-hard enablers. The rest, it seemed, had decided that befriending a woman infamous for her yoga scandals wasn't worth the hassle. The last I heard, she was living in a small apartment across town, trying to piece her life back together. Part of me hoped she'd find a way to learn from her mistakes. But most of me just didn't care anymore. As for me, life was better than ever. My relationship with Emma had blossomed into something real and meaningful. She was everything Jennifer wasn't: honest, supportive, and refreshingly free of drama. One night, over dinner, Emma asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Do you ever regret how it all went down with Jennifer?" I thought about it for a moment, swirling the wine in my glass. Regret? No. It wasn't the ending I wanted, but it was the one I needed. Sometimes, you have to burn the bridges to make sure you never go back. She smiled, raising her glass. To burning bridges, then. To burning bridges, I echoed, clinking my glass against hers. One morning, a few months later, I received a package in the mail. It was addressed to me but had no return address. Inside was a small book titled The Art of Letting Go, along with a note. "Michael, you taught me more about myself than I ever thought possible. Thank you. From Jennifer." I stared at the note for a long time before setting it aside. A small part of me wanted to believe she'd finally grown as a person, but the larger part of me couldn't help but chuckle. Jennifer, still trying to have the last word. One evening, as Emma and I sat on the balcony of my apartment, watching the sunset, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't expected. "You know," I said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I used to think Jennifer was the best thing that ever happened to me. But now I realize she was just the thing that led me to the best." Emma squeezed my hand. "Sometimes, you have to go through the storm to find the rainbow." I laughed. "That's a bit cheesy, don't you think?" "Maybe," she said with a grin. "But you love it." And she was right. I did. Jennifer once thought she'd play me like a pawn, but in the end, I was always a king. Life has a funny way of working out when you take control of the board. Checkmate. Subscribe to never miss a new story and discover even more captivating tales.